I'm having this nightmare scenario in my head. The first draft pick of the startup draft of the dynasty draft, I cannot let it be an auto pick, right? I mean, he's still got 3.5 hours left, but I cannot let him auto pick.
It's like if he lives on the West Coast, it's still 7:30 there.
Right, exactly. I don't know where.
The problem is that Adam doesn't know where these guys live.
I know he lives in America. I also know that he made a very generous donation to St. Jude, and I do not want to make him auto pick the first pick of our fantasy draft.
No, you can't. You have to pause it.
Yeah.
My question is, did he reply when you said the draft was starting on Monday?
No, I had to email him personally to make sure he was aware. And then
so he did not indicate to you that he was ready to go for this draft. Not that he's not ready to go, but you know what I mean? Like he was.
He did.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I emailed him again this morning and I said, hey, you're on the clock. Just want, I don't know where you live, blah, blah, blah. All right. This is really interesting. You have Justin Fields in here as a potential faller. How could that happen? What do you think?
I think if he has bad training camp reports and any bad preseason performances, he's a guy that I think some people are still a little bit concerned about because while he's great as a rusher, he was under 2,300 yards passing last year, and we can get excited all we want to about DJ Moore. Is that enough to put him over the top? I mean, I think we would all say yes, that we're excited about Justin Fields, and when I say faller, I think when you're starting to see like anybody like me, I don't know where you are on this, Heath, in terms of drafting. I guess I just pulled up out of the rankings page here, but by comparison to Burrow or Herbert or those guys that are behind him, for me at least, it's easy to say, okay, I'll take those guys over him because they're safer, and so if Fields hits and does what he's capable of doing, he should be an absolute fantasy star. But again, the passing is the thing that's going to have to get him there because he was on pace to be the best rushing quarterback of all time from a single season standpoint.
Yeah, I think it will be very, very concerning if we get negative camp reports about Justin Fields. I am expecting everyone to be glowing, even if he's not great. And so I will probably drop him. Now, I think his ADP is QB 6 or 7 right now. I don't know that I'd drop him below that, but I've got him either 4th or 5th. I've kind of gone back and forth between him and Lamar. I could see dropping him down to 6th, maybe even 7th.
You and I have the same first 7 quarterbacks. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Jackson, Fields, Burrow, Herbert. And the only thing Dave differs on is Dave has Burrow 4, Fields 5, Jackson 6.
It's really painful to have to put Justin Herbert 7th, isn't it? It's like doesn't.
No, it's not painful, but it's great to draft him. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I would say that if Justin Fields has a bad training camp or preseason and there are bad reports, I would present the argument of buying the dip because he wasn't a good passer last year, and he was QB 6 per game, and in the last 9 games of the season, he was QB 4 per game, QB 3 and 4 point per passing touchdown league. So I think he's already shown that he can be kind of a negative as a passer. I mean, he was on pace for 2,541 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. That's like Daniel Jones would look down on that. Not the touchdowns part, I guess, but but he's already shown Justin Fields that he can be close to elite if he's a bad passer or has bad passing statistics. So I think I would probably, at least present that argument of buying the dip if there are negative reports on Fields. So I just did. Okay.
Yeah.
Running backs: Barkley, Jacobs, Breece Hall, Dobbins. Let's talk about potential fallers at running back that aren't injury related. Do you want to throw out names, or would you like me to? Heath, anybody want to get in there?
Yeah, I do not have additional names. You go ahead.
Okay, I don't have any either, but let's figure it out.
I can see, depending on, again, what the ADP is, but guys like Rachaad White, who don't have a lot of competition, but people question, can he handle being the lead guy? I could see, who was I just thinking of? Sorry. Akers is another one. If he has another disappointing practice reports because they're not going to play him in the preseason, that's the one I think that could fall. And if you get maybe any sort of Devin Singletary looks great and Dameon Pierce does not, that's one I think you could see some negative spin on as well.
I think Ramondre, obviously, with all the flirtation they've done with veteran running backs, any of those guys get signed and he's going to fall. And I mean, if we get more about Jaylen Warren's going to be on the field more, Then Najee could maybe, I don't know where Najee's at in ADP. I've got him at RB17. So
yeah, I mean, it depends. I'm looking at Fantasy Sharks or Draft Sharks, and he's RB11. He's at the 2-3 turn. He's ahead of Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. I think actually pretty much all of the round 3 running backs could be fallers. If you're talking about Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, if there are more Bigsby reports, Ken Walker is in this ADP. I don't know about that. Jahmyr Gibbs, if he's a round 3 pick, all of those guys could be fallers. And Tony Pollard is obviously one as well. Although I also wonder if he could be a riser. I feel like right now his ADP might be kind of in between the Zeke scenarios. He's a mid to late round 2 pick.
Well, he's a mid to late round 2 pick, but he's RB7 or 8, right?
I got him as RB9 on Draft Sharks, and I would just say he's got the same ADP as Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Which I get, but it also, like, that's one where we could look back and feel pretty dumb about it.
Yeah, RB7 on NFC. All right. Wide receivers. Potential fallers. All right, this is a guy you really like, Christian Watson. So
I'm surprised by his ADP that he's the 24th receiver. I would expect him to be higher. So this is probably wrong to say he's a faller.
Oh, you're saying that he's higher in your rankings?
Yes, like I said, I was looking at rankings when doing this. Probably should have looked at ADP. So, but yeah, I would expect him to fall if he has Jordan Love stinks reports attached to him.
I'm also, I was going to put Romeo Dobbs in the potential riser thing because that was some of the talk during mini camps that Dobbs was the favorite target for Love. And if we see that again in training camp, is that something that would take you off of Christian Watson, Jamie?
No, but it would make me more excited about Dobbs. Again, we see this all the time. Yes, there's going to be a number 1 receiver, but there's also going to be secondary targets that are going to be successful. And I think when you look at it, this is a very barren receiving core, at least based on paper, so it's so young, especially if the top 3 guys are who we expect it to be with Watson, Dobbs, and Reed. And then, Musgrave, whatever his last name is, I apologize. The tight end, so this is a group that, has plenty of potential and upside, but also a lot of pitfalls. And so, Watson and Dobbs in their second season, I think both are going to be competing for, Jordan Love's attention. But even if one is not significantly better than the other, that's just going to make that second guy, which in this case, you would be a little bit down on Watson, but really excited about Dobbs if he's, close in target potential to what Watson should be.
Yeah, and I think Dobbs was even held down a little bit when Jaden Reed was drafted because there are people who like Reed more than Dobbs. I think Dobbs will rise even if it just becomes clear he's the clear number 2.
And you got 2 Bucs receivers on this potential fallers list, and they're obviously Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and I understand the concerns here. My question is, are Godwin's and Evans, I'll go to Heath first. If Godwin's wide receiver 27, about a round 5 pick, Evans is wide receiver 33, round 7 or so. Could the quarterback situation get any worse? Or is it already baked into the ADP?
No. Did you watch DJ Moore last year? It could absolutely. I'm lower than ADP on both of these guys right now. So I think the only case for them having a good or rising would be that somehow the Bucs talk Tom Brady out of coming out of retirement. I don't think it should go up with Baker Mayfield. I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to do something in camp or the preseason that's going to make people feel better about him. This is another one of those situations where at OTAs, like a lot of the reports were about how bad Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask both were. If that continues, then I think these guys will fall.
Is it too early to assume it's going to be Baker Mayfield? Do you think Kyle Trask has a legit shot of winning this job?
I don't think so. Based on everything that I read, I think there was even one of the Bucs beat writers was saying, they'll give Kyle Trask his opportunities, and it will come at the detriment of Baker Mayfield getting first-team reps that he needs.
Yeah, I don't have either one of them ranked in my top 32 quarterbacks.
Okay. Michael Pittman as a potential faller. So I actually thought, Jamie, that maybe he could be a riser because of Gardner. I feel like if Richard,
when I first looked at ADP, when I did Bus column a few months ago, following the draft, he was still being drafted as a starter. So to see that he's wide receiver 32 is a little surprising to me. But yes, I would agree with you. He could be a riser. But I was again looking more at I think where Richardson was ranked, and assuming that Pittman was still in that same range.
But you'd rather see Minshew for Pittman, right?
Yes.
From a floor standpoint, yes. From a stealing standpoint, no.
Okay. Heath, how about you? Does Pittman have a higher ceiling with Richardson or Minshew?
I would think it's possible that like in a year or two he has a better ceiling with Richardson, but I think right now he has a better ceiling with Minshew because I think they'll throw it 450 times if Richardson's starting 17 games.
I think that the problem is even if Minshew wins the job week 1 or let's say Richardson loses it, at any moment they could easily go to Richardson. That's always going to be hovering over Pittman.
I would be surprised, and I don't know anything, but I would think if they think Richardson's close, he'll just start week 1. Like if Minshew's starting, I would think that Richardson's probably a little ways away.
I agree. Yeah. But we've already had their owner come out and say that Minshew will be better in week 1 than Richardson would be. So it is just a matter of
I think that like everybody should accept that. That's true. It's just how big of a I think it's not about who would be better for the team to win. It's about is Richardson close enough to not be detrimental to his own development by being out there.
Yeah. I agree. All right, and finally, tight end Kyle Pitts, you have as a potential faller. In ADP, he's tight end 5. He's a round 6 pick. What's your interpretation here of Pitts?
Again, it's he's a very polarizing fantasy option. Based on his talent, he should be a much better fantasy producer. But we know the offense that he plays in and the coach that he plays for, and it's just a matter of and the quarterback he has. All those things working against him too much that I think people look at it and say, okay, is it safer to chase, or is it safer to avoid chasing the upside of what Pitts can be and take one of the more reliable tight ends, whether it be Darren Waller or George Kittle or Dallas Goedert and those guys. And so I think that's just the decision fantasy manager is going to have to come to grips with. On top of the fact that he's still coming back from knee injury that kept him out of minicamp. So if he's banged up by any stretch, that might push down his ADP as well.
Okay. I mean, is there something that would develop other than an injury offensively, a development for this team that would hurt Kyle Pitts or,
that they named Taylor Heineke the starter?
Oh, wow. Is that an irrelevant possibility?
If Ritter stinks, maybe.
I mean, I would assume that Arthur Smith needs to compete for the division this year for his job's sake. So I think he's probably going to start whoever he thinks is better.
So why would that be bad for Pitts if Heineke's better?
Because we know what Taylor Heineke is. We have hope that Desmond Ridder could be better than Taylor Heineke.
I would almost think, though, it's your Gardner Minshew argument that Heineke would be better for those guys than Ridder would be.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, veteran versus young quarterback.
If I'm not mistaken, Heineke last year was great for McLaurin, right? Or was it the opposite? I think McLaurin popped with Heineke and kind of.
I think Wentz was great for McLaurin. He was throwing the ball 35% of the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
it was Wentz. Okay, well maybe let him just say Heineke was great for the tight end. No, JK.